It's a beautiful little town. It still has a little quaintness, which is beautiful. Everybody says, oh, how can we live here? How can we live here? Well, you either have to have money or you have to have a job. Okay, we made it. New customers. Had the right key, how about that? But being from the old school, like I was born in 29, and I grew up on Catalina with the old, good old days, and you hate to see changes, but then you love it so much, the quaintness is still here. I love it. Yeah. How are you guys? Good to see you folks. How are you? My father came here in 1919, and he came as a laborer. There was word that Wrigley had bought the island, and they were going to develop the island. Along with a lot of other Latins, they came and they were doing a lot of infrastructure, like labor type work, and they worked for the Wrigley Company. They all had jobs. The ones that wanted to work had jobs, and they worked. Later on, my mother came from Mexico also, and they came and visited and eventually met my father, and they became together and got married. Well, if she'd have known she was going to have 11 children, she probably wouldn't have married him. We all grew up here on Catalina, all of us were born and raised on Catalina Island. And as we were born and raised here, we all got jobs. We all learned how to work on Catalina Island. And we were poor, of course. We ate a lot of beans, a lot of tortillas, a lot of rice, and a lot of that good stuff. And a lot of us kids were able to go out hunting occasionally and get a goat and a pig or something like that, a wild animal. And that's why we ate our meat in those days. We all had plenty of food. So yes, Catalina was really, it's been good. What can you say? Well, my real name, my birth name was Eliodoro. That's my given name as a birth name. But when I went into the Army, I said, they're going to tease the hell out of me in the Army. Eliodoro, what the hell, is that a horse or what is that? Well, anyway, I changed my whole thing to Lolo, a little more simple, you know. And it ended up, and it stayed. Of course, some of my documents still say Eliodoro, you know. But that's a life. You kind of go along with the punches. This is my brother Herman. Herman worked for the Conservancy for years. Yeah, he's one of my good brothers. Of course, I do have 6 more, and they're all good brothers. In the older days, young kids like us always had a chance to make a buck because you could caddy, dive for coins, carry luggage from the boats, set pins, and all that kind of good stuff. And then they commercialized everything. Hey, look at those kids are making money. Heck with those kids, let us make money. So it was kind of fun. But we all had a chance to make a buck in those days. In fact, most of us, when our family was so poor, we had so many kids, that most of us, like Herman and all of us, whenever we made a dime or a nickel or a quarter or whatever we made, we used to give it to our mother because she had so many kids. We had so many kids at home that every quarter, dollar, whatever it was, everything helped. I was gone for 10 years at one time. I went to college 3 years. I went in the armed forces, and then I worked on the other side and stuff like that before I came here. And I came over here just to help a guy for the summer, and I never left. Still here. You've got to remember that barbering is one of the oldest traits, other than the girls out hustling. That was the oldest thing that's ever happened. Here I am, 3 years of college, and I don't know how to do anything. How am I going to make a living? And I decided, well, I better get a trade of some sort. So I went to barber school. And I worked on the mainland for a couple of years. And it just so happened I came over here. Mr. Becker came to the shop where I was working on the other side, and he asked me to come and help him for the summer. And I said, well, I know I was a bachelor in those days. And I said, hey, that's pretty nice on Catalina during the summer. You know, for a bachelor. So I said, okay, I'll go. And I came over and I worked for him, and eventually I got stuck in the barbershop. He decided to do something. He bought a liquor store. When he bought the liquor store, he said, Lolo, the barbershop is not the business for me. I've done it for 40 years now. Give me so much and you can have it. And so we made a deal, and then I became a barber, and I stayed and stayed and stayed. After a temporary, it was supposed to be a temporary thing, but here I am in 2019 and still barbering, and I'll be kicking the heck out of 90 soon. So my wife was, she wanted to go on and do stuff. She wanted to travel, she wanted this and that, but she said, you're in love with a barbershop. Get rid of that barbershop. And I said, well, you have to retire. She said, okay, I'm going to retire such and such. And she did retire. And here's Lolo still in the barbershop. He said, and she kept telling me, that's the trouble with you. You're in love with a barbershop. You love your barbershop probably more than you love your home, you know. You might say probably I am. I don't know. It's been my life, you might say. I had 50 years here. That's more than I lived anywhere else. But the barber business has been good for me. Do I cut my own hair? Yeah. I do sometimes cut the top and the sides and whatever. The back I can't get too well.
This seems to be the center of the universe of Avalon, this wonderful barbershop of yours.
Well, thank you.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, it's because we had a good rapport. We started programs here in Avalon for the youth. My brother Frank and I, we started a lot of different programs that are still going on. They're paying people a lot of money for things that we did for free. We met here every Friday night here in this barbershop. We drank beer, we pissed and moaned, we argued, we this and that. The coaches from the Little League Baseball, the coaches from the men's softball, which we started both programs, and the golf.
Yeah, for our world, this was our world here. You know, like I said, if you want to know information, you come here and you find out something.
When I was a little girl, I used to sit right there in that chair, same as my little brother's doing right now. And then also when we were kids, we used to play Little League, and we used to wait right here, waiting for our uniforms, all of us kids, to find out what team we were on. And it was just awesome. Every kid on the island was here.
These are the homes there. As you can see down there, right there where you see that car, that's where I was raised, in that area right there on Tremont Street. And as you can see in the background there, that's where we learned to play golf in the back there. That wall has been built since. And this picture here is Tremont Street. As you can see, we were raised back here in this area, about the middle there. And down back further is where it used to be the garage, where we all used to go for gas and stuff like that. But all this housing was built by Wrigley. Wrigley did it for all the people that worked for him on Catalina Island. My father had so many kids that he took up these two places. We lived here on B2 Tremont and B1 Tremont there. That's where we were raised as kids. And back in the back, the wall was not there, but that's where my father, during World War II, he had a little farm area where he grew vegetables, and we fattened up the wild pigs and wild goats. And during World War II, that was our source of meat in Avalon. And then we had to the point where we had 11 kids in the family, so we had to get another house, and we ended up with this house. So 11 children, we used these two houses as we were growing up. My dad died in '63, he died young. He fell off, he was a landscaper, and he fell off of a tree, and he broke his neck on the way down. And my mother died later on. He was 63, my mother was 76. And she had, she had diabetes real bad and so on. I have 3 boys and 1 girl, and then I have the little guys that are there, grandchildren and so on and so forth. My brother Richard has become very famous because he's had 24 hole-in-ones on Catalina Island. And he's done that ever since came from Vietnam, and he was injured very bad in Vietnam. And he's kept on his golf game with one of the pros here, Silky Reyes, helped him out. He said, get out there and hit balls. He didn't think he could do it, but he sure learned how to do it. He got 24 hole-in-ones, zap, zap, zap. The rest of us play for years and years, and maybe we get one or two. In fact, there's a lot of professionals that never have had a hole-in-one. But Brother Richard has had 24 of them. He just learned to hit the ball from left to right instead of from right to left. My grandson just graduated from the Merchant Marine Academy in Vallejo, California.
I used to be one of 3 organists here, and eventually both of them moved off the island, so now I'm the permanent organist here and music director at St. Catherine's. I get my haircut from Grandpa every few months or so, but help sweep up afterwards, all that good stuff. I can't remember. I can't remember when my first haircut was, but I know that there's pictures of it.
Oh yeah. He didn't like his haircuts at first. He used to get, just like all my other kids, they didn't like them. They cried. Finally, they mellowed down. It's like a wild horse, you know. You tame that wild horse, and eventually that wild horse tames down and gets that saddle on, and you ride it. Let me tell you a little bit about my brother Frank. When I became a barber, when I got out of the Army and I went into barber school, Frank was in the Army at the time. And he said, hey, I think, when he got out, he says, I think I'll go to barber school. And he barbered, he worked for me. And Frank was really liked by kids, by people, period. He was very instrumental in being outgoing and really picking up good conversations with everybody. And he was the guy that really ended up liking my brother Frank was Hugh Hauser. And Frank had a lot to do with the junior golf tournament. And all these kids that loved him, Frank was on the first tee, and he's a great MC. And talking to the kids, and he would always have good conversations going with them and so on. And always had a good word for all those kids. And the kids all became they had good words for Frank because he knew how to communicate. Not everybody knows how to communicate to a child. It's tough because that's another world completely. But Frank could go from one story to the other. And Frank worked for me for 30-something, 40 years maybe 50 years. When he passed on, the church was full, nobody at school, the kids great, and they showed, every bar on the island showed, Ralph Morrow put it so they could screen it all in. He didn't tape it, he said, I'm not taping it, I'm just showing everybody as it's going on, because he knew the church was gonna be full. And it was full, packed completely. All the church had it over here, and it just sounded. And then when he died, as leaving a good word, and that's the story on Frank. Good brother.
I was Lolo's model. I used to come over on weekends, and he used to cut my hair and shave me and all that to get me ready. And finally, when he got married and all that, he was about time for him to get his license. So he asked me if I could be over there in LA with him and take his test. And he passed it, and that was his model. And he's been cutting my hair for over 55 years. And he's my brother-in-law now, so it's good.
My wife and I have been on the island for about 20 years now. But Lolo was the barber of choice because there wasn't any other. And the nice thing about Lolo is you knew what you were going to get. No matter what you picked on the wall, we all walked out of there with the same kind of haircut. And so you knew who got their haircut by Lolo or his brother Frank, because we all looked the same walking around the town. And it's always a blessing to go in and talk baseball with them or talk sports or what's going on in town, because that was the hub. That's where everybody went to share whatever information. Or if you wanted something spread through the town, you just tell Lolo and it would get through the town in a heartbeat. So he's a great asset to the community and still a great barber, and I still get my hair cut by him.
My name is Rich Hernandez. Been here, born and raised here at Catalina Island in 1953. So been here all my life. Went to college for a couple of years and came back home. I was a fire marshal for the city of Avalon for 5 or 6 years. Worked up through the ranks from engineer firefighter to engineer. and just recently retired about 9 years ago. My first job on Catalina Island was working for Lolo Saldana at the Barbershop. Back in the early 60s, I was making $1.50 a day, shining shoes and sweeping hair. And then as soon as I got paid, at the end of the day, I'd run over to the local arcade and spend all the rest of my money. And I'd go home and my mom would say, "Hey, where's your money?" And I'd have a quarter in my pocket when I got done for the day. So that was always quite interesting going home sometimes.
We had a lot of celebrities that came in. In fact, those chairs that you're sitting on right there at this barbershop, it came from the St. Catherine Hotel. A lot of good celebrities came from the movie stars. One of the ones that never came in this barbershop, but he always had a kind word. He always yelled, "Hi, fellas." And he was the type that always gave autographs, but he would not stop. John Wayne would say, "You got a pencil?" If you didn't have a pencil or paper, he wouldn't give you nothing because he didn't have it with you. He said, "Keep walking." He would tell everybody, "Keep walking," because if he stopped, he would get mobbed. You know, that's the way he was. So John Wayne was one of the famous ones. And like I said, he loved Catalina, and he died. He had the boat they called the Wild Goose. The Wild Goose was a famous boat he used for diving. He used to go down to 2 harbors to dive all the time. He enjoyed that immensely. One of the top celebrities that I've had in my barbershop, and he sat right here in this chair. It's a gentleman, Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks from the Cubs. He played 19 years with the Cubs, had a 290 batting average for 19 years. He was instrumental in baseball. Very big time baseball player. He came in and he sat here, we talked and shot. And Ernie was such a gentleman. He came in here with his wife. And when he came here with his wife, she sat there and we talked and shot the breeze. The lady from the museum came and she said, "Ernie Banks, could you come to the museum? We want to do a story on you." His wife said, "Look, he's comfortable. I've never seen him so comfortable. Leave him alone." And he said, so we talked and shot the breeze. And he said, "Lolo, I'm going to show you how to hit." I said, "You can't show me how to hit." I told him, I said, "Ernie, I coached Little League for 40 years and you're going to teach me how to hit? I already coached a bunch of kids." He said, "Lolo, but you didn't hit 500 home runs like I did, you know." And that was kind of the story. He was really a good person. And I do have his picture up there on the wall. And that was probably one of the nicest celebrities I've ever had and stayed here for talked and shot the breeze and stuff. So that's a story on Ernie Bank, which is one of my favorites. But the guy that was really classic is Jimmy Lefevre. He's up there. But when he was with the Dodgers back in '64, when they won the World Series in '64, he would bring some of those celebrities over here, and they would sit there and they drink. In those days, you could drink beer and nobody bothered you, you know. And he'd sit there and we'd drink. He'd drink his beer and have his celebrity. Like he brought one to Wiggler, and he had some of those ball players that he used to always bring because he had a baseball camp here on the island at 2 harbors. And when he had the baseball camp, he'd bring celebrities to go up there. We're talking about golf, you know. We go back to the old days when our parents got to Mexico, from Mexico, and they went to the U.S. They came to Catalina when Wrigley bought the island. And it just so happened that the little apartment that they rented was up here on Tremont Street. The 18th hole was the fairway right there, right next to our home. So a lot of us youngsters, we had learned to have golf clubs, and we learned to steal golf balls from there was a little ditch, and we hid underneath the ditch. And when a ball would go down there, the other one on the hill, we'd say, "Hey." He would yell at us, and we'd point down there so we'd get it. And then all of a sudden, we all became pretty good golfers. And it just happened that all my family became golfers, and that started our golf world. We were caddies at 10 years old, and we were, a friend of mine and I were called to caddy for 2 Japanese people. And these Japanese people were, as we were caddying, they had cameras, and they were shooting all over Catalina Island, the golf course. We kind of thought as kids these guys, they really don't care about golf. They're just taking pictures all over the hillsides, all over everything. It's right after the war started in December. Then we started thinking, these guys were spies. And here we are, we were, you might say, at the foundation of World War II. See, so that's how we became, as caddies, like we caddied all kinds of people. But we could raise money when we were youngsters on Catalina Island.
My first memory with Lolo was walking into his barber shop and seeing the photo of my great-grandpa on the wall, and it just sparked conversation. Obviously, our families go back, but knowing him more so as an adult, we go to dinners, we rehash history, and it's really fun to talk about golf with him, and he inspired me to take some lessons.
We have a junior golf tournament over here every year, and my son Marty is the manager of that tournament. And this is the entry blank. We've had such people as Phil Mickelson, and you can see his entry blank here back in 1970. He was 14 years old at the time, and he played in our junior golf tournament. And now he's one of the top professionals in the PGA Tour. This is a picture of the old golf course, and this is the clubhouse that we were in earlier. And this is the old 18-hole golf course right here. You can see the hillsides up there and all this kind of stuff. This is a picture of the original 18 holes. Okay, the 18 holes, we had 18 holes here on Catalina Island. And as you can see, it was 67 par, and the par was 34-33. This is me in one of the golf tournaments over here. I was only 16 years old there at the same time, and I played in the junior golf, in a city golf championship here in Avalon. And this gentleman here was Tony Hernandez. Tony Hernandez beat me in that finals of that golf tournament, and here I am receiving my second place trophy. Okay, this is the photos of the junior golfers that go on every year, and we've had them, like my son Marty said, 50 years. And this is my brother Frank, who was very instrumental in starting that golf tournament. And this is my son Gilbert from Hawaii. He's now a legislative analyst for the county of Maui. But anyway, this is the type of kids that we used to get to that golf tournament. These are the winners of that particular era. And this is the freshest little thing here. Yeah, that was a great tournament. Played in, like I said, in 51. We had a nice big turnout of people. Like I said, good golfers from all over Southern California. Some of them became professionals later. And it was a 36-hole tournament, 2 days, Saturday and a Sunday. And I won it by three strokes, I believe it was. But it was great. I'm very proud of this little trophy. And by the way, we had Tiger Woods in our junior golf tournament. And he was a very nice young man, although he was 5 years old. Now, he played that year. It was 1981, I believe, that he played in. And he did well for a young man his age. And later on, he came 2 or 3 times and played golf against our high school here in Avalon. And they claimed that the only 2 matches that he ever lost in high school was here in Avalon against our boys. He didn't like this course because it's narrow and it's short. Well, everything he hit over the green, and he was in trouble over the greens, But anyway, he didn't like our golf course. But he became a liking to my brother Frank. He used to call my brother Frank Coach. They were good pals. Anyway, I get a little emotional. I get a little emotional when I talk about Frank, because he meant a lot. He meant a lot to the golfers. Years ago, the little baseball program that we had, there was a young man named Joe Hernandez. We called him Lipe. Lipe Hernandez came to me one day and he says, Lolo, he says, I got a lot of kids around here. They like to play ball. Can we do something for them? So I said, well, let's look. So we got together and we got to playing ball and stuff like that. And the momentum was there. We had up to 120 kids at a time playing ball. And after the program was over, after we'd have the regular league play within ourselves, we ended up doing something like taking the kids camping, all-night camping. We'd have barbecues. We'd have goat meat, pig meat. And then my wife would cook a big pot of beans. She had a big container of beans. She would cook chili beans, and you'd make those chili beans and so on. And those chili beans were so good. They were homemade chili beans. But the day we were there, we would have chili beans for breakfast, chili beans for dinner, goat meat and pig meat and the kids were just chowed up.
Yeah, Lolo and I got together with my dad and him are the ones that kind of started the Little League program on the island years ago. It was a lot of the local kids on our streets would go up and play up on the mountain up by the old golf course, up behind the tennis courts up by the golf course. And we played, a lot of kids would play baseball, and then Lolo and my dad got together and said, let's start a program. So they started the Little League program, and I want to say it's been about 57 years ago. And then Lolo was involved with that for quite a while. And just recently, in the last 15 to 18 years, he came up to me and asked me if I would take over the program. And I told him, absolutely, I'd take it. He wanted to see it carried on and continue to keep being successful in the city. And I think it's the longest running program in the city. The barbershop was the center of everything. When we used to go and pick teams down there, we'd have to wait till Lolo closed at 6 o'clock before we could start picking. And we'd be there sometimes till 12 o'clock at night, picking teams. There was probably 125 kids signed up for the program at the time with 7 teams. And with the local merchants pitching in and helping out, they would buy uniforms and equipment and donate stuff. And it was just a great program for the kids. Now they have a lot more selections for kids' recreation in the city, but Little League's been one of the main programs they've had for years. And at the end of the year, with the kids, we'd reward them with a camp out at Ben Weston Beach for one night. And we took about 100 kids. There's probably about 20 coaches. How we came back with everybody, I don't know sometimes, but they were always safe and in good hands. And we had nothing but fun with the kids. And to this day, you get generations of kids. I used to work with your dad. I coached your dad. It was all because of Lolo and my dad started this program years ago. It's been just generation after generation.
That we really were, I'm really proud of it, because a lot of that is stimulated. A lot of those things that happened in Catalina Island, as you can see on my walls, had a lot to do with Lolo's Barbershop. Oh, a little story on my wife. I met her here when I came back from, I had gone through the army, the school, and everything else. I went and I became a barber then. And I was over here cutting hair at Mr. Kurt Becker's. And she was on her bicycle and kind of tripped a little bit, and I looked out of the barbershop. I came out of the barbershop, I said, "Are you, hello, hi." She looked at me and just kind of glared at me, and that was it. So later on, a couple of get-togethers with some of the girls, with some of us bachelors that lived on the island, and I was one of them. And I got to the point where we went a couple of times to the casino. They used to have, the big bands were here. So I went and danced with her, and I said, "You don't know how to dance, do you?" She says, "Who told you you could dance?" So anyway, yeah, that was, she threw it right back at me. Very slowly we began, and we went out to dinner a few times, and we just had lots of fun. It was a good summer program. We used to go swimming. We did a lot of things together. She went back to the mainland to work, and after about 2 months, I said, I really miss that lady, So I went over there, and I said to her, I said, "Hey, can you get a couple of days off?" She says, "I thought you'd never call me again." I said, "Well, I had such a good time. I really enjoyed being with you." She said, "Okay." So I rented a car over there, and we started driving. And then I told her, I said, as you're driving, she said, "Where are we going?" I said, "Well, go down the coast a ways." We ended up in Yuma, Arizona. And she said, "What are we doing here?" I said, "Hey, while we're here, I want to see my buddy I went to college with in Long Beach City." And I said, "And by the way, would you like to get married while we're here?" She says, "What?" "Yeah, would you like to?" She says, "Stop the car." She stopped the car, gave me a big hug, and she said, "Let's go for it." That was it. That was my proposal and married. Really, it happened that quick. Imagine the money we saved. One early morning, my wife woke up. My wife, Lolo Saldana, woke up, and I was sleeping on the couch at the time, and she said to me, she said, She used to call me Dad. She said, Dad, Dad, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. So I went ahead and I tried to get her, I called 911 right away, and I tried to get her going and stuff like that, and I couldn't get her going. In the meantime, here came a policeman, and he said, now bend your head this way. She bent her head like that. As soon as she bent her head, she went down. And then here comes one of the paramedics. He came and he brought her back. He said, I think I got her back. I said, just in a second, he said, I'm losing her. And she never came back after that. I get very emotional. She's a beautiful lady, yeah. This is my little memorial for her all the time. I always keep that little flowers for her and stuff. Since I lost my wife, it's been really, really rough. For an old bachelor like me, I lost 35 pounds since she died. And as you can see, it's a typical, typical bachelor's headquarters. She died in 2008. And I've lost, like I said, 30 to 35 pounds. And I just don't know how to cook those tortillas and beans and enchiladas and all that good stuff like she made them, she said. And somebody said, well, why haven't you remarried? I said, because I haven't met the one that's there. I'm looking for the one that I lost, and she hasn't come back, you know. So it's tough, but life goes on. And I tried to make the best of it with my kids and my family, so. You know, I'm 89 years old. July 3rd, I'm going to be 90 years old. The good Lord's blessed me with a lot of good life. Now, my advice to anybody that wants to be that age is eat well, take care of yourself, watch out for the booze, take care of your family, and go to church once in a while. Pray for the good Lord. Pray for His help. It's important. Praying is very strong. It helps you live every life. I go to church every morning, and the reason is it helps me get started. It helps me think in the right direction that day. If I didn't have this little barbershop, I probably wouldn't be here now, because this barbershop has kept me in the limelight of having friends come in and talk to me, and I kept myself involved with programs that have kept me alive, like as you could see on the walls, that I didn't let grass grow under my feet. I was always thinking of what else can I do next? How else can I help this community? You know, the community has helped me, let me help it. Because I like the barbershop here, because I was able to do things for me like I felt like John Kennedy. What was his favorite words? What can you do for your community? Not what your community can do for you. In every club that I belong to, gave something back to the community. And that's why you have a lot of kids that everything is so money now. Nobody wants to give any time. Like the fact is that, like the museum and places like that, they're giving a lot to the community. And a lot of them, like the Lions Club, I'm still belong to the Lions Club. They give a lot back to this community. Not just take from Catalina, you got to give something back to it. What are you giving back to the island? Not just taking. Okay, that's all, folks. I'm trying to get soap out of my soap machine. It's kind of lazy like we are. When you're doing this, you always hope that you don't take any divots.
Just like in golf, right?
Yeah, leave your divots in the golf course. And that's what it is. We good old cash drawer, all cash, no computers. But don't tell the government.
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him while he's doing this.
Yes, that's true. We'll get back to him on that.
Okay, and just for them, what's your name?
Alistair.
Allison. Okay, there you go. I'm Lolo, Allison, okay?
Alistair.
Alice, okay. Alice what?
Alistair.
Alex Tur?
Yeah.
Okay, Alistair. Andy what? I'll be 90 years old in 6 months, yeah. I'm already celebrating my birthday, see? That's been there about 3 or 4 years. I'm 98 years old, 89 years old, so every day's a holiday if I'm alive.
Yeah, every day's a birthday.
Yeah, right.